Welcome to the Deep Dive. Okay, so you've been looking at Bitcoin charts, spotting some interesting technical signals.
That's right.
And today we're going to try and unpack what these might mean for the price, sort of figure out the potential implications.
Exactly. What really caught my eye is something called an evening star pattern. It's showing up on the 4-hour Bitcoin chart.
And the evening star, okay?
Yeah, right around that $83 5K.
All right, let's dig into that. What exactly is an evening star pattern? And, why is it typically seen as bearish?
Well, it's basically a 3-candle setup. You usually see it after an uptrend. You get a strong green candle going up, then a smaller candle could be red or green that gaps up a bit, showing some indecision.
Oh, okay.
And then you get a significant red candle coming down, one that closes, pretty deep into the body of that first green candle.
Right, so it suggests the buyers are losing steam.
Precisely. It hints that the upward momentum might be stalling, and sellers are potentially stepping in. These patterns, especially after a good run-up, sometimes have a decent track record if they get confirmed.
Confirmation.
Right.
Stress, that's key. So what price levels are we watching? What actually validates this bearish idea?
Good question. For an initial heads up, I'd want to see a solid break and then trading consistently below 81K.
Okay, 81K.
Yeah. And for, let's say, stronger confirmation, a more conservative signal would be breaking below $76.05K.
Gotcha. And what invalidates it if the price goes the other way?
Right. If we see Bitcoin push back up and, importantly, hold above that recent high, that $83.05K to 84K zone, then yeah, this particular bearish setup is likely off the table.
Makes sense. So clear levels to monitor. Now,
Yeah.
You also mentioned another indicator, the parabolic SAR, that it flipped bearish on the same 4-hour chart.
Yes, the parabolic stop in reverse. It's a trend indicator.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is that the little dots it plots have flipped above the price candles,
Yeah.
which is the bearish signal for SAR. So it adds another piece to the puzzle, sort of reinforcing that idea that the upward trend might be running out of gas.
So a couple of signals pointing down potentially, but then you mentioned we're seeing some short-term consolidation, like price is just moving sideways.
Yeah, exactly. Right now it seems kind of stuck between roughly 82K and 83K. And within that range, there's the VPVR point of control. That's the volume profile visible range sitting around $82.39K.
And then point of control, the high volume area, how does that play in?
Well, it often acts as a sort of magnet or a near-term support resistance level.
Yeah.
Since we're consolidating right near it, a decisive break below that $82.39K could signal, sellers are gaining the upper hand in this little range.
Okay, but things aren't totally clear-cut, are they? You mentioned some mixed signals on the shorter 1-hour time frame.
Right, that's where it gets a bit tricky. The 1-hour MACD, which shows momentum, is actually still bullish.
Oh, okay.
But it's converging. The lines are getting closer together, which often suggests that bullish momentum is weakening.
I see. And the RSI.
The relative strength index, yeah. It's elevated, showing there's been decent buying recently, but it's not quite in that overbought territory yet. So there's technically room for price to fall without the RSI screaming oversold immediately.
So shorter time frame momentum is kind of iffy, maybe weakening.
Kind of, yeah. It adds a layer of complexity.
Now here's something that seems to contradict the bearish view. You said the on-balance volume, the OBV, is still strong.
Yes, and that's a really important point. The OBV basically tracks cumulative buying and selling pressure, and it's been rising and holding up quite well, suggesting that overall there's still significant buying volume underpinning the price.
So how do we square that? Strong volume, but potential reversal patterns.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It could mean the selling pressure we're seeing from the evening star is maybe just profit-taking within a larger uptrend. Or perhaps the volume hasn't caught up to the potential shift yet. We'd really want to see the OBV start declining, along with the price, to feel more confident about a sustained move down. It's a divergence worth watching closely.
Okay, that makes sense. So if we get that confirmation, say below 81K or definitely below $76.05K, where might the price head? What are the potential downside targets?
Well, that first key level I mentioned, $76.05K, that's an initial target. It lines up with the low of the first candle in that evening star pattern.
Right.
If we break below that, Then the next significant zone is probably down around the 74K to 75K area. That's where we saw some previous lows, previous support.
Okay, any levels in between?
Yeah, there's potentially some intermediate support, maybe around the $78.07K mark as well. Something to keep an eye on if we do start heading down.
Right, so we've looked at the evening star, the crucial confirmation points, the SAR, the consolidation, those mixed momentum signals, the strong OBV, and the potential targets. Quite a bit to track.
Definitely.
If you had to pick just one thing, what's the absolute most critical factor you're watching right now to see if this bearish reversal actually plays out?
For me right now, it really boils down to that confirmation below 81K on the 4-hour chart.
Okay.
Seeing price not just dip below, but actually break it and stay below it. Without that clear break, the evening star is just a warning signal. The bulls might still wrestle back control. That 81K break is the trigger, I think.
Got it. That's the key trigger. Well, this has been a really insightful deep dive into the Bitcoin technicals, focusing on that evening star and, crucially, the need for confirmation. It really underscores how you need to look at multiple pieces, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It's never just one signal.
So, thinking about all this analysis, what bigger question does it raise for you about how markets signal these potential shifts?